vision and pay me. It's never to sway me. Indigenous, maybe we winning this crazy. Your opportunity, your opportunity, your opportunity, it's your opportunity, your opportunity.
Welcome to EDI on the Street. We are really thrilled to have you with us today.
Absolutely.
If you're tuning in, chances are you're someone who lives and breathes the supply chain.
Or at least loses sleep over it.
Exactly. You're deep in that complex, sometimes chaotic, but always critical world of data integration.
Mm-hmm.
And we're here to talk about EDI and supply chain mechanics, but not how they look in a textbook.
No, definitely not the glossy marketing brochure version where everything just works.
Yeah, how they actually exist inside real organizations.
Right. The messy reality.
Yes.
The day-to-day grind, the exceptions, the workarounds. We're both here from GraceBlood, and if there's one thing our work has taught us, it's that the gap between how a supply chain is supposed to work on paper and how it actually works on the warehouse floor, well, that gap is where all the stress lives.
That gap is exactly where we're setting up camp today. We are tackling a topic that I honestly think is responsible for, maybe 90% of workplace tension?
Oh, at least.
And probably a lot of the blood pressure medication prescribed in this industry. We're talking about internal silo. And before you roll your eyes and think, oh, great, another management buzzword, just stick with us.
Yeah, this isn't about corporate retreats or trust falls.
No forced synergy seminars here.
Not at all. We're not going to talk about breaking down barriers in some, abstract HR sense. We're talking about data.
Right. This is about the fact that in almost every company we walk into, the departments are, they're effectively at war with each other because they're all operating in different realities. It's operational warfare. I'm talking trenches, bunkers, friendly fire.
That is a very accurate, if slightly violent way to put it.
It feels that way sometimes.
It does. But the fascinating thing, or maybe the tragic thing, is that most organizations really struggle with this, even if they won't admit it.
Oh, they won't.
In the boardroom, they'll call it communication issues or process bottlenecks.
Misalignment.
Misalignment. That's the one. But fundamentally, it's a silo problem. And from my perspective, digging into the data side of this at GraceBlood, what people often don't realize is that this pain isn't just about personalities. It isn't just that Bob in sales hate Steve in the warehouse.
Right.
It's rooted in disconnected data.
That is the hook right there. I think we've all been in that meeting. You know the one.
Oh, yeah.
Let's paint the picture. You have sales screaming that they closed a deal. They promised delivery by Friday because their system said available.
Their screen said green.
Right.
And the warehouse is saying, hey, we shipped what was on the pick ticket, which of course was apparently wrong.
Or they short-shipped it because they physically didn't have the goods that sales promised.
And then at the end of the line, you have finance.
Oh, finance.
And they're yelling that the invoice doesn't match the PO, so nobody's getting paid, and the customer's demanding a chargeback.
The result, everybody feels the pain, but everyone just blames the other department.
Always. All those guys in the warehouse are disorganized.
Sales is promising things we can't deliver.
Finance is just being bureaucratic.
It's just a blame game. It's operational finger-pointing.
It is.
But what we want to unpack today, and in some serious detail, is the misconception that these are people problems.
Right.
They're usually structural problems. And specifically, we have to talk about the role of EDI, electronic data interchange.
Because that's the irony, isn't it?
It really is.
EDI so often gets blamed for these problems. People say, oh, the EDI is broken or the integration failed.
The EDI provider messed up.
But the reality is, when it's done correctly, EDI is the very thing that can solve the silo problem.
It's the connective tissue that's missing.
That is the key phrase right there, connective tissue. Without it, you're just a collection of organs functioning independently. And biologically speaking,
it's a mess. So let's peel back the layers. I want to start with the anatomy of a silo. How do they actually form?
Good question.
Because I don't think anyone wakes up in the morning, starts a company, and says, it would be great if none of my teams talk to each other.
No, absolutely not. Yeah. I want total isolation, said no founder ever.
Right.
No one sets out to create a silo.
Yeah.
It is. It's almost always the result of good intentions gone wrong.
Or at least good intentions in isolation.
That's it. We have this insight from our work at GraceBlood that silos usually come from fragmented integrations. Think about it.
Okay.
A company starts small, right? Everyone's in the same room. You just yell across the desk.
The good old days.
But then you grow A problem comes up. The sales team has a problem. They need to track leads, manage a pipeline, close deals. So what do?
They go out and get a CRM.
Exactly.
They get Salesforce or HubSpot or whatever. They solve their problem. They optimize for their metric, which is revenue.
Right. They buy a tool that speaks the language of sales. It's got a beautiful interface, mobile access, nice charts.
And they're happy.
For a while. They've solved their problem in isolation. But then the operations team has a problem. They need to manage inventory, production, bills of materials. They can't do that in Salesforce.
No way. Salesforce doesn't care about palette configurations.
Or assembly lines. So they go and implement an ERP. Maybe it's NetSuite, maybe SAP, maybe something legacy that's been running since 1995.
The AS400 green screen.
You know it.
Yeah.
So now you have a completely different user interface, a different database, a different source of truth.
And then the warehouse needs to know where the pallets are. Like which bin, which aisle.
A different level of granularity.
Exactly. The ERP might say, you have 500 units.
But the WMS, the warehouse management system, tells you you have 500 units in aisle 4, bin C, and they need to be rotated.
So they get a WMS. And then finance, of course, they need to count the beans and handle taxes, so they get their own reporting tools.
And you end up with what we call the alphabet soup of disconnection.
CRM, ERP, WMS.
Sales lives in the CRM, ops in the ERP, warehouses in the WMS, finances off in their own world.
And here's the kicker, right? The leadership team looks at this stack of software and they think,
We're set.
we have the best in class for every department. We have the Ferrari of CRMs and the Rolls-Royce of ERPs. We should be flying.
But they're not flying.
They're crashing, or at least stalling out.
Because those systems, they're designed to be excellent containers for data. But they're not necessarily designed to share it fluently with each other.
Not out of the box.
It's like 4 brilliant experts in a room, but they all speak different languages. One speaks French, one speaks Mandarin, one speaks binary.
And this is where EDI usually enters the picture, but often in the wrong way.
In a siloed company, EDIs is just sort of stuck somewhere in the middle. It's not fully connected to all these pieces.
It's treated like a utility.
Right. It's treated like a post office, not a nervous system.
Okay, that's a great analogy. Let's dig into that. A post office, what does that mean?
Well, if it's just a post office, it just passes envelopes from one island to another. It picks up a message from the customer, drops it off at the ERP's door. It doesn't know what's inside. It doesn't check if the address is valid. It just says, hey, I delivered the package. My job is done.
And that leads right into this concept of the bolted-on mistake. This is something we see constantly.
All the time.
From an integration standpoint, this is when silos really harden, when EDI is bolted on to the side of the company instead of being designed as the core.
Correct. So imagine building a house and then realizing you forgot the plumbing.
Oh, no.
So you just duct tape pipes to the outside of the walls. That's bolted on EDI.
That's a horrifying image.
If your EDI provider or your internal team just sets up a pipe to receive orders and dump them into a folder somewhere, you haven't integrated anything. You've just created a digital inbox.
A digital inbox. I want to drill down on that because that is where I see companies get stuck for years.
Yeah.
They think because they're receiving an EDI 850 purchase order file, they're doing EDI. But if that 850 just sits on a server waiting for a human to open it, read it, and type it into the ERP,
You haven't solved the silo.
you've just digitized the mailman.
You have. You've basically replaced a fax machine with a server, but the process is identical. And let's talk about the operational result of that.
Please.
EDI becomes just another stop in the chain, just another hoop. And when teams lose trust in that chain, when the sales guy looks in the ERP and doesn't see his order, what does he do?
They create workarounds.
They create workarounds. It's human nature.
This is the human element fighting back against the system.
Exactly. When the path is blocked, water finds a new path. People are the same.
They start keeping their own spreadsheets. I'm going to keep my own list of orders in Excel because I don't trust the system.
Oh, the spreadsheets.
I walked into a client's office once, this was before they worked with GraceBlood, obviously, and the customer service manager had this massive whiteboard behind her desk, covered in red ink. I asked her what it was. She said, these are the real orders.
The real orders. That phrase just sends a shiver down my spine.
Doesn't it? It implies the orders in the actual system are fake, or at least unreliable. It implies a total collapse of data integrity.
And that's the moment. That is the moment a silo stops being just an organizational chart and becomes a hard operational barrier. The moment a department creates a shadow database because they don't trust the main data flow, you have a massive problem. That whiteboard is a silo. That Excel sheet on someone's desktop is a silo.
And they don't update automatically.
No, they're static snapshots of a moving target.
It's just fascinating how it evolves. It starts with software choices and ends in operational warfare.
It does.
So let's move into the he said, she said of the supply chain. We touched on it, but I want to really walk through the day-to-day reality of this confusion.
Let's do it, because this is where the money is lost.
Yeah.
It's not just annoying, it is expensive.
It costs margin, reputation, customers.
All of it.
Okay, so let's set the scene. A typical transaction in a fragmented company. We have an order from a big retailer, let's call them Big Box Mart.
Okay.
They order 1,000 widgets. High stakes order. If we miss the ship window, we get hit with chargebacks.
Standard scenario, high pressure.
The order comes in via EDI, but because the systems are fragmented, here's what happens. The sales team, they're looking at their CRM, they see the order, maybe their portal scraped the EDI data, maybe they just got an email, but they say, great, order sent, I see it right here, my job is done.
Time for lunch.
I'm going to lunch. They have a confirmation on their screen. In their reality, the transaction is successful.
They're already calculating their commission.
But then you go to operations. They're staring at the ERP, and maybe the integration job failed. Or maybe there was a syntax error that the bolted-on translator couldn't handle. Or maybe it only dumps files every 4 hours and we're in hour 2.
Or maybe, and this happens more than you'd think, the alert email went to a guy who quit 3 weeks ago, and nobody updated the distribution list.
Oh, that went to Bob's old email. Meanwhile, the order's just sitting there, aging.
It is.
So operations looks at their screen and says, we never got that order. It's not here. Sales is hallucinating.
And technically, looking at their screen, they are telling the truth. Their reality does not contain that order.
Exactly. So now let's go to the warehouse. Let's say the order did eventually trickle down.
Okay.
Someone found it, pushed the button, it goes to the WMS. But the item master isn't synced between the ERP and the WMS.
Oh, the classy.
The ERP calls it a case of 12, and the WMS just calls it an each.
The unit of measure nightmare, or the GTIN mismatch. Classic data fragmentation.
So the warehouse pickers go out, they see an instruction for 100. They pick 100 individual units, not 100 cases.
And they ship it.
They ship it. They verify it against their system, and they say, we shipped exactly what the instruction said. We did our job perfectly.
And then 3 months later, finance gets the charge back. The retailer says, you short shipped us by 90%.
Or you sent the wrong item, and finance looks at the invoice, looks at the PO, and says, nothing matches. Why are we getting fined? Who authorized this?
And the meeting that follows is just
Chaos.
total chaos. Everyone brings their own printouts. Sales has the CRM screen. Ops has the ERP dump. Warehouse has the packing slip.
And that's the crux of it. The technical reality here, the irony, is that everyone might be correct. The salesperson isn't lying. Their system said sent. The ops person isn't lying. Their system said nothing received. The warehouse person isn't lying. They followed the instructions in their WMS.
They are all looking at different versions of the same transaction. It's the blind man and the elephant, but with supply chain data.
It really is. It highlights the total lack of a single source of truth. And without that, you cannot have a functioning supply chain. You just have a series of arguments. And think about the time wasted in that meeting. 4 high-paid managers arguing for an hour about what happened instead of fixing it.
That hour cost the company thousands of dollars in productivity alone.
Which brings us to the next part, gasoline on the fire.
Yes.
Because people, they want to do a good job. Nobody wants to fail. So when the systems fail them, they try to bridge the gap manually.
That's the gasoline. It feels like a solution in the moment. It feels like heroism. I'll save the order, I'll stay late and type it in.
But it just makes the explosion inevitable. We're talking about manual handoffs.
The escalation usually starts small. The automated process fails once or twice. So a manager says, you know what? This integration is flaky. From now on, just email me the order details.
And I'll manually key them into the warehouse system just to be safe.
And that impulse right there, that just email me, is the beginning of the end for efficiency. We call this the human middleware problem.
Human middleware. I love that term. It's tragic, but I love it.
It fits, doesn't it?
It conjures this image of a person literally sitting inside a server rack connecting wires by hand.
Because that's what you're doing. You're using a human brain and human fingers for the job of a digital interface. You're using spreadsheets, emails, CSV exports.
And my personal favorite, just send me a screenshot.
Oh, the screenshot. Here's a picture of the error. You can't index it, you can't search it, you can't validate it.
You can't even copy-paste from it without risking a typo.
And the expert insight here is just so critical. The moment humans become the integration layer, synchronization is lost. It is mathematically impossible for a human to rekey data with 100% accuracy and zero latency.
It just can't happen. Let's look at the math. Even the best typist has an error rate.
No.
If you have thousands of orders, and each order has 10 lines,
SKU, quantity, price.
that's 30 data points per order times 1,000 orders. That's 30,000 opportunities for a typo every single day.
And even if you have a 99% accuracy rate, which is incredibly high for that kind of work,
You're still creating 300 errors a day.
and those errors compound. A typo in a quantity means a short ship. It just gets worse and worse.
And the latency. If your human middleware goes to lunch, the data stops moving. If they get sick, the supply chain breaks.
And yet, that is the backbone of so many companies. They run on hero mode.
It is, and that insight you had earlier, that each team starts managing their own version of the truth, that becomes standard operating procedure.
Sales has their spreadsheet of real orders. Ops has their whiteboard of what we're actually making, and never the twain shall meet.
And the result isn't just errors, it's that collaboration becomes so much harder.
It creates fatigue, it creates burnout, and it reinforces the silo. Because if I'm the only one who understands my spreadsheet,
You become a bottleneck.
I become indispensable in the worst possible way. I can't go on vacation.
Yeah.
The whole process relies on Susan knowing that when customer X orders item Y, she has to manually change the code to Z.
Poor Susan can never retire. She can't even take a sick day without the VP calling her.
Exactly. And if Susan leaves, the knowledge leaves with her. And suddenly the company realizes they didn't have a process, they had a person.
Okay, we have painted a pretty bleak picture here.
We have.
Fragmented systems, people yelling at each other, poor Susan trying to reconcile everything.
So let's talk about the solution.
Yes, let's pivot. The light at the end of the tunnel. Let's talk about reframing EDI.
Because, as we said at the top, EDI gets the blame. It's too hard, it's too rigid, it's archaic, but it's actually the savior here, if you architect it correctly.
So in a perfect world, or let's say a GraceBlood world, where is EDI supposed to fit?
EDI is supposed to be the shared source of truth.
The foundation.
The foundation, not a door on the side of the building. When we talk about the technical fix, we mean that orders, acknowledgments, your shipments, invoices, they all flow from the same validated data set.
Okay, unpack validated data set. What does that look like in practice?
Okay, in the messy version, an 850 PO comes in. It sits in a staging table. There are no rules checking it before it gets ingested.
So if the price is wrong,
It just flows in with the wrong price and creates a conflict later. It pollutes the downstream water.
right?
In a validated model, and this is where technologies like VelociLink come in, the data is checked against business rules at the entry point. The order comes in. The integration layer acts as a bouncer.
I like that.
It asks, is this price correct? Does this item exist? Is the customer's credit okay? Is the ship to address valid?
And if the answer to any of those is no,
It stops right there. It triggers an alert. It doesn't propagate the error downstream. It forces a resolution at the source.
but if it's all yes,
It flows to all the systems, simultaneously or sequentially, with no human alteration.
so it completely eliminates the guessing game.
Completely, you eliminate the question which system is right, because they're all fed by the same validated river of data.
Okay, let's go through the operational payoff here, department by department. Let's start with customer service. They have the hardest job in a siloed company.
They're on the front lines of the he said, she said.
Yeah.
In a proper EDI setup, they stop chasing answers.
They don't have to call the warehouse to ask if something shipped.
Nope. They can see the full transaction life cycle right on their screen. They see the order came in, the acknowledgement went out, the ASN was generated. Total visibility.
That's huge for morale. They can actually be helpful. Yes, Mr. Customer, I see your order shipped it. Here's the tracking. Boom. Done.
They become heroes instead of victims. For operations, the big win is traceability. If a breakdown occurs,
And it will. This is the real world.
you will. But now you can trace exactly where it occurred. You can see, okay, the data stopped here because of this error code. It eliminates the finger pointing.
You fix a process, not blame a person.
Exactly. And finance. They usually hate EDI because of the reconciliation nightmares.
They do?
Finance loves a validated system because they can invoice faster. Speed to cash improves dramatically. You go from getting paid in 60 days to maybe 30, just because the data was clean from the start.
And finally, the warehouse. The folks moving the boxes.
The warehouse stops getting blamed for upstream data issues. That is their biggest grievance.
You send us bad data, and now you're mad we shipped the wrong thing.
Exactly. With validated EDI, The data that hits the floor is clean. They can trust their scanners. They can trust their pick tickets.
So from an integration perspective, what you're really saying is this is all about eliminating ambiguity.
100%. Ambiguity is the enemy of automation. You cannot automate maybe. You can't automate I think so.
You can't automate Susan usually fixes this.
You can only automate yes or no.
Right.
And proper EDI forces the business to get to yes or no instantly.
I want to move to our last section because this is where the real magic happens. It's not just about the software, it's the cultural shift.
This is my favorite part of the discussion.
Mine too.
Because we start with technology, bits and bytes, XML, X12, but we end with psychology.
When everyone works from the same data, speed improves. That makes sense. But tell me about the shift from political accountability to clear accountability.
In a siloed company, accountability is political. It's about who can argue the best, who can deflect blame. It wasn't my fault, it was the system.
Right. Defense mode. Everyone is wearing armor to every meeting.
When you have a single source of truth, accountability becomes factual. The data shows the error happened at step 3. It's not personal, it's math.
And that changes the whole tone. You shift from escalation meetings, which are just people yelling,
to problem-solving meetings.
A huge difference. You stop debating whose numbers are right, and you start solving the actual issue. Okay, we're out of stock. How do we fix it?
Exactly. And this leads to the deep insight here. Silos aren't really a technology problem.
They're not.
No. They're a confidence problem.
A confidence problem. Say more about that.
Think about why the sales team creates that spreadsheet. Why do they do it?
We don't love Excel.
No one loves Excel that much.
They do it because they don't have confidence that the ops team sees the same reality they do. They get scared. So they create a silo to protect themselves.
So silos are a defense mechanism? They're a defense mechanism against a lack of trust.
That is such a human way to look at it. We build walls because we don't trust the people outside them.
Correct.
Yeah.
And you can't tear down those walls with team-building exercises or pizza parties.
Not if the data is still broken.
You tear them down by restoring confidence. When I know for a fact that when I hit enter in my system, the warehouse sees exactly what I see. I don't need my secret spreadsheet anymore. I can trust the process.
And that's when collaboration stops feeling forced. It becomes natural.
It becomes proactive instead of reactive. Instead of fighting over the past, why did this go wrong?
Yeah.
You're collaborating on the future. How do we prevent this?
I've seen that shift happen. It's like a weight lifts off the whole office. People actually start to like each other again.
And that's where innovation starts. When you're not spending half your brain power on data entry and error correction, you can spend it on how do we ship faster?
Yeah.
Or how do we better serve Big Box Mart?
So as we wrap this up, let's crystallize the takeaways for our listeners. We've covered a lot of ground here. From the alphabet soup of systems to the psychology of trust.
Right. If we have to boil it down, it's this. If your organization is struggling with silos, if your departments are fighting, the answer isn't more meetings. And it's certainly not hiring more people to manage the chaos.
The answer is fixing the connective tissue.
Exactly. You have to look at the nervous system of your company. And in the supply chain world, that nervous system is EDI.
It belongs at the center, not on the sidelines.
It needs to be the authoritative backbone that connects the CRM, the ERP, the WMS, and finance.
When everyone works from the same data, the silos, they just fade. You don't even have to demolish them. They just become irrelevant.
The walls don't serve a purpose anymore. And that's when operations finally move together. That's when you see the velocification of the business.
I like that. Speed and direction aligning.
Because speed without direction is just chaos.
And a very expensive crash.
Usually.
Well, that brings us to the end. It's a heavy topic, but it is absolutely solvable.
It is.
It just requires looking at EDI not as some techie problem for the IT basement, but as a strategic asset for the boardroom.
It takes work, it takes the right architecture, but the payoff is a company that actually enjoys working together.
And delivers on its promises. Who doesn't want that?
Right. We've only just scratched the surface on the how.
There is a lot more to say about the mechanics of actually getting there.
This was part 1. Be sure to stay tuned for part 2. Where we dive more into the solution for these silos.
Thank you so much for listening. We hope you walk away from this with a new perspective on those walls in your office and maybe a blueprint for how to take them down. That's it for this episode of EDI on the Street. We'll catch you next time.
Goodbye, everyone. Keep those integrations clean.
Maybe we winning this crazy. Your opportunity, your opportunity, your opportunity. It's your opportunity, your opportunity.